My name is Jane Reeves, and I am Professor of Teaching, Learning and Innovation at the University of Kent, and I am Director of the International Centre for Child Protection. And just a little background really on me, and that's just to say my slideshow seems to have stopped, Thomas. That's not a very good start. Just to say that my background is in child protection, and I am started off in social work, working with children and young people, both in the field and in residential care. I was very interested to do some research and study children in the care system who became parents. And so I went on to do my MPhil and PhD. I came to the University of Kent in 2011 and set up the Centre for Child Protection with my colleague, Professor David Shemmings. What do I do to move it on, Thomas? Because my presentation has stuck.
Can you click the arrows maybe?
No, it's not moving on, sorry. Okay, just to say that...
Jane, let me ask you to share again your presentation, that me perhaps, sorry.
Okay. There we go. Yeah, can you see that? Yes, okay, so that's my background, we've done that. So the aims of the webinar today are to introduce you to the work and philosophy of the Centre, to introduce myself, which I've done, and my colleagues who will be co-hosting today. And that's my colleague Vanisha Jassal, who's Senior Lecturer and the Acting Director of Studies for the MA, and Emma, who is our trainer within the Centre, and she's going to demonstrate to you some of our simulations. So we're going to outline what we do, we're going to explain our MA, we're going to tell you and demonstrate our simulations, and hopefully to answer any questions that the materials we show you raise for you. So as I said, Professor David Shemmings and I had a vision for a centre that was about capturing the best of contemporary technology and using gaming techniques to turn these into modern and innovative ways of training both professionals and children and young people to help protect children and keep them safe in a very innovative way. So we started off in 2012 developing our interprofessional MA, and that, just to emphasise that it is interprofessional, it's not just for social workers, it's for all professions and all professionals working in the child protection arena. And it's very much international. It has an international module, but it looks at child protection from a 360-degree angle, really, looking at the perspectives of children, families and professionals. And we started that in 2012, and that has been incredibly successful. We also run our innovative training simulations, which we'll talk about in a minute, for professionals and young people. And we go out to organisations and we train professionals to use these simulations, and they can use them then with children and young people. We work very much with strategic stakeholders in the UK. That includes the Home Office, DFE, Childline, and we've also been lucky enough to work with Terre des Hommes on an Erasmus project, which looked at social work training across Europe. That was led by the University of Stirling, and we worked with 10 universities across Europe. And one of the outputs of that project, the Family on the Move, my colleague Emma is going to demonstrate for you later on during this webinar. We tackle really hard-hitting topics, anything from sexual abuse, neglect, grooming, radicalisation, CSE, and our most recent simulation is on gangs and knife crime. And so we turn research articles and findings from research into really innovative, interactive, immersive simulations that you can train with, go through, and indeed train yourself. So some of the theories behind the centre, so what we're based on are very much educational theories. We think about how people learn best, but we're also informed in terms of how we think about children, we think about families, and how we think about interventions that professionals make. And so two of the theories that inform us are, first of all, systems theory, and that's integrated very much throughout our MA, and that looks very much at the child in the situation which they're in their family, their foster family. It looks at them with their friends and the attachments they have, and their resilience factors that are in their life. We also think about their neighbourhood, the community, the organisations in which they live and which they interact on a daily basis, for example, schools, teachers, health and social care professionals. And then we put that in a wider macro framework and look at the law and policy that guides us in all of our interprofessional work. So that's a really solid framework for us. And as I said, it's integrated through our MA and through our thinking. And then the second theory that we use is contextual safeguarding, and that comes from the work of Carleen Firmin, and the link is at the bottom of the slide here. So if you haven't heard of contextual safeguarding, which has come out of the work from the University of Bedfordshire, it's a really interesting framework for you to think about and to learn about, and they have an amazing website. And lots of activities and lots of stimulus material to think about in terms of your own work. And as it says here, contextual safeguarding is an approach to understand, respond to young people's experiences of significant harm beyond their families. So this really encapsulates child sexual exploitation, it encapsulates grooming, it encapsulates sexual abuse that happens outside of the family. And it recognises that different relationships that young people form in their neighbourhoods, their schools, and online can feature violence and abuse. Parents and carers often have little influence over these contexts, and young people's experience of extra-familial abuse can undermine parent-child relationships. So this is a really important framework, and it's one that we have taken and wrapped around our new simulation on gangs, county lines and knife crime. So that's absolutely embedded in that simulation. So if you don't know about contextual safeguarding, I really would recommend you to go and have a look at the University of Bedfordshire's website. So there's some of the kind of practice theories that inform us and inform our work at the centre, but we also have turned around about our thinking about how people learn best, and we've applied educational theories to the simulations we've developed and the approach within our MA. So we're very heavily influenced by Vygotsky, and we use his ideas about frameworks to structure an issue, to encourage learners to explore experientially, find out for themselves, and learn how to critically evaluate. And as you'll see later, when Emma demonstrates the simulations, you'll see how the participant is encouraged to find out information, to go to different parts of the simulation and find out what's going on, and start to critically analyse and evaluate what's going on in the lives of the characters in our simulations. So we use blends of reading, discussion, short films, vlogs on topics, lots of different learning techniques in our MA that make it interesting and really interactive to use. Simulations are safe spaces. They allow practitioners to take risks and see the consequences of actions they perhaps wouldn't take in their practice or that they're thinking about taking. And that can be really useful. So it's a safe place, if you like, to take risks and make mistakes. And that really can be very helpful in terms of facilitating discussion. And then finally for this slide, we work with a successful gaming company who build games for the Disney Corporation. And so they add in to our simulations that little bit of magic, that little bit of fairy dust really, to make our characters look appealing and to make the simulations themselves easy and safe to use. So these are the simulations that the Centre has developed so far. Rosie 1 was our prototype, which we developed in 2011, and has given us a huge amount of data regarding the kinds of features and factors that people like to, if you like, play with and interact with. Rosie 2 on complexity and neglect, and if I've just got a minute, I'll just take you in to show you what that looks like in terms of the screenshots of it. Zach was our first simulation directly for young people, although it's also used to train professionals, and that's on radicalisation, and that was very much aligned to the Prevent agenda in the UK. Then came along Looking Out for Lahti, which is on child sexual exploitation, and Emma is going to demonstrate that for you today. Mariam and Joe is our most recent one on radicalisation, and that looks at two sets of characters who are groomed for radicalisation. One in terms of radicalisation for the ISIS, and the other for right-wing radicalisation. Visiting Elliot is about a sex offender in the community, and that's used for teaching and learning. Family on the Move is the output of the Erasmus project, and that follows a refugee family across Europe, and we see how they're treated in different countries, and you can follow them on a map and interact with them and think about how they might be feeling and the kinds of interventions that they get. And then finally is Crossing the Line, which is our new interaction simulation on gangs, knife crime and county lines. So I'm going to come out of this and just very briefly show you Rosie, if I can. It doesn't look like I can. Let's have a look. Can you see that? I hope you can see that. Is that something you can see? Can you see that, Thomas?
Oh, it's not loaded yet.
Okay.
Can you share the screen? Now you stop the video and we can see you.
Can you see that?
It's loading.
Yay. I'm not going to go into it because I'm running out of time and I don't want to impinge on Vanisha and Emma's time. I just wanted to show you what Rosie looks like in terms of the kinds of scenes that are in there. And you can go into the office. So remember, this is professionals. This is visiting a family with neglect. It's thinking about how you would work with this family and the kinds of practice that you would do. So you've got an office scene, you've got a scene outside the property, you go into the garden, and then most of the other scenes are inside the house, and they show and depict interactions with professionals and the family, and it builds up to making some choices and decisions within the simulation. And again, all of this, all of the simulations are underpinned by theory, the theories that I touched upon, and research. We used a lot of Professor Harry Ferguson's work, and also, of course, Professor David Chennings. So I think that's all I want to say today. I'm going to now pass you on to my colleague Vanisha, who is going to take you into the MA. And yeah, thanks very much. Okay.
Okay, hello everybody.
Can you share it again, Vanisha? Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Okay. Can everybody see my slide? Yes? Can you see my slide, Thomas?
Yeah, it's working. It's working.
Yes. Okay, sorry. Okay, so hi. Hello everybody, and welcome to this webinar. So I'm Vanisha Jassal. I'm Senior Lecturer at the Centre for Child Protection, and I'm Acting Director of Studies for the Masters Programme and some of the other teaching programmes that we have at the Centre here. So I want to just start this session, which I'm going to be talking to you about with a lovely picture of our graduates from the MA programme. These are our students who graduated last year, and it's always one of the nicest moments for us as a teaching team to see our students get to that finish line after doing this programme for 2 years. It's not all of them, it's most of them, but sometimes they cannot always travel from the countries that they are from, because at least a third of our cohort are from abroad. But it's still nice to sort of start this, I think, with that lovely picture. So I'm going to just briefly tell you a little bit about myself. So I've been with the centre since 2012, since it started, and I've seen the MA grow and grow and grow, which is brilliant. We've got over, I think, over 80 students this year, the year ones and twos. It's becoming increasingly popular in recent times. So it's been a lovely, lovely project to be a part of. I'm also studying a PhD part-time, which is looking at child sexual abuse in the British South Asian communities, and looking at concepts of shame and honour and culture and the barriers that poses for victims of child sexual abuse from those communities. So this is just a little flyer about my research. I'm not sure if you can see me moving this cursor around. But the orange and black flyer is my research project, and so you can visit my website mysantre.com to learn a little bit more about myself in terms of my research, and follow me on Twitter at Vanisha Jassal. I also want to share this image of a little boy and his mom drawing, because another area I'm passionate about is communicating with children, young people, and my colleague Emma within the centre developed a MOOC last year called Communicating Effectively with Children and Young People, which has been really, really successful. And it starts each October. So this, those of you not familiar with a MOOC, these are massive open online courses which are free to access, and they span 4 weeks generally. Ours is a 4-week course which anyone over the world can study, and we targeted over 150 countries. We recruited, I think there was over 8,000 learners who joined this MOOC with us. So just to kind of say that, you know, the MA is one of many things that we do in terms of teaching. So, you know, do look out for that through our website and social media. I also am training to be a sound play therapist. So this explains this little image here at the bottom. So I work with some local children and local nursery in terms of their communication, behavioural issues and emotional needs that they may have, and try to use sound play as a form of communication to help them to really express themselves. That's a little really quick overview of what I do. Before I move into the MA, which is going to take up most of my session, I just want to quickly tell you that we do offer also the postgraduate diploma or certificate in advanced child protection. So if you don't want to commit to the whole 2-year programme, so the MA is a part-time programme which students study over 2 years, you can opt for the diploma, which is all the modules in the MA apart from the dissertation, or you can opt for the certificate, which is 3 modules in year 1. And you can also build up to the MA doing individual modules, which we call the standalone modules. So the 6 modules across the MA can be studied individually as standalone modules, and then you can build up to the certificate, diploma or MA if you prefer that route. And this has become a really, really popular option with many students across the UK and abroad, actually. We also have a direct work with children module, which is a complete separate module from the MA, and that is run each year. So if you are interested in any of these additional programs, please do contact us at the end, and the MOOC I've already spoken to you about. So moving on to the Masters in Advanced Child Protection. So as I said, this is a part-time program. So this is a program which is relevant to anyone working in child protection, child safeguarding, child welfare, in any professional role. So as Jane said, we are an interprofessional centre, and the Masters also is an interprofessional Masters. So we have students from different sectors, social work, education, police, health, and I'll show you a bit of a breakdown of that in a little while. So we're really proud of that. We've managed to retain that interprofessional angle for the MA, which is what Jane and David's vision always was from the start. It's also increasingly becoming international, and the little image on the left-hand corner, I'll just explain. This is an image I share with our year 1 students when they start, because as Jane said, we are very we pay a lot of attention to theory in everything that we do. And what we find is when students join us, they're very strong in practice, obviously for obvious reasons. They're all practitioners working in child protection and child safeguarding. So they're good at that. They get that, and they're confident with that. They're quite confident with research. You know, research is being increasingly used in child protection practice. You know, it can still be improved, but it's getting there. But theory tends to be the area where they lack confidence, and their knowledge is probably a little bit more limited. So what I always say to them right at the start is to kind of weave all these three elements in constantly in their thinking, in their expressions, and their writing, particularly of their assessments. If they can integrate that, then that's brilliant. And students tell us that we achieve that really well on the MA. It's a really good balance, and they say they really do grow in terms of their theoretical knowledge by the time that they leave. So this is a really unique aspect of our particular programme. So we start the programme each January. We have an induction at the University of Kent, an optional induction, 4-day induction for students when they start. So we're recruiting currently for a cohort which will start next year. And as I said, we've got 49 Year 1 students and 35 Year 2 students. And the costs currently are £4,600 per year. But the university does allow the facility where you can pay equal monthly instalments, so you don't have to pay that whole sum in one. So this is a breakdown of some of the years, the more recent years, depicting the students on the MA. So as you can see, generally we have a balanced cohort from health, social work, education. We've increasingly started to get the international, these are the purple ones here, international students. So these are students who are working in various humanitarian settings across the world. We've had students working in Syria, Thailand, lots of students working with UNICEF, UN. So it's brilliant. It's been an absolutely amazing teaching experience, coming into contact with global child protection issues. So both the teaching team and the UK students have really gained immensely from our international students. And it's been a really, really high learning curve, steep learning curve for all of us. But we were really proud of the fact that we have been able to accommodate the international students. And I will show you a module which was developed particularly because of the international students in the main in a little while. So these are the modules. These are the names of all of the modules that students study. So in Year 1, they start in January with a module called Definitions, Prevalence, Causes and Consequences of Child Abuse and Neglect. And then the second term, Contemporary Child Protection Practice and Policies. And they study that alongside a research module. As it's an MA programme, there has to be a research component to that. So they do a social research module. And then they end their Year 1 with a module called New Perspectives on Assessment and Observation. And they start Year 2 with a module called Support, Help and Intervention. However, we've offered an optional module this year, as I was just saying earlier, called Support, Help and Intervention in International Child Protection. So this module was designed very much by our colleague Dr. Tracy Green, and it was launched this February. And it's brilliant, and I'll show you a little bit of that. Some of you may very well be interested in that module. So they have an option in Year 2 now to study the more UK context or more international context. And then they end their Year 2 with a module which is really, really interesting called The Unconscious at Work. They do a dissertation in their Year 2 alongside their Year 2 modules on a child protection topic of their choice. So it's it is a heavy MA, you know, it is a challenging experience for students. So they're all busy professionals working in child protection, which is very, very difficult, as you all know, an area and an unpredictable area. And so doing this MA is challenging, but without being biased in any shape or form, students find it really enriches their professional lives, and a lot of them have gone on to some wonderful, amazing things, having completed the MA, and both professionally and on their personal journeys, and some have published work and started to undertake PhDs. So it is a really enriching experience, and they don't regret doing it. I'd like you to now just fill in the questions that are going to pop up on your screen while I actually stop sharing this and go into the actual modules themselves, so you can have a look at what the MA actually looks like. So if you could just spend some time completing that polling form that's about to pop up. So I'll continue to speak and I'll show you the module format. So all our modules are hosted on all you need to access this MA is an internet or linked to broadband connection, and you can access it from anywhere in the world. So this is the module that they study when they first start with us. So you can see we have everything just set out for them, the handbook. Everything is actually accessible from your study, from your laptop. All the resources are actually just a click away. So all the ebooks, all the video lectures are all just there. This is the work that we as the academic team do. So it makes it very easy for you to study this program. It's the flexibility that this offers which makes it very, very successful. So we release the assessment for each module right at the start. So I'll show you the module assessment. So we've got Cortex. So if I click on all these, we don't have time now, but if I was to click on all these URLs, they will take you to the readings and the Cortex. So there are ebooks or they're scanned chapters, or video lectures or audios. So you don't have to go anywhere to source anything to do this course. This is the assessment that they do. So you have all the assessment up in front right from when you start. You have all of the week's content. So I'm going to quickly go through, just give you a flavour of what the topics of those first weeks are when they start with us. So this module it looks at the sort of definitions of abuse and how that's changed over the years. We have a study week in the middle of each of the 10-week modules. So this is where we have a day where students can come into Canterbury in Kent and actually have a face-to-face teaching day with us. We also record these sessions and provide live webinars. So if you can't make it for any reason, then that's fine. You're not at a disadvantage, but students do 90% of the time and do attend. Even some of our internationals will fly over from Africa to join, and even Australia. We've had students joining us from Australia for study days and induction days because they do value that sort of face-to-face opportunity. So this is just a bit of a flavour. So I'll show you some of our video lectures that we do. So this is a week in week 8, for example, that they example of the type of material that we share with them. So we have discussion forums, which I'll go to in a little while, but all the weeks have activities. So for example, here they're asked to consider some questions from a video lecture from Professor David Shemmings, who's one of the co-directors for the centre.
Well, this session is on the prevalence of abuse. And in a sense, it's quite difficult to answer because we don't know what the prevalence of abuse is. So
there's these video lectures of academics like David and professionals from across the UK are scattered across all of the modules. So it's not just a whole stack of reading that you're doing. We're trying to engage the students and keep them stimulated for the whole 2 years, and we do achieve that really, really successfully. And for some students, if you've had a busy day, if you've had a really busy week, you may not want to do any reading at all, and you may just want to watch all the video lectures, and you're able to do that. So again, it's that flexibility that we offer them. That is a really, really big benefit of the MA that we offer. I'm just going to go into the forums. So these online discussion forums are assessed. So that's a really important point to bear in mind because they make up 15% of each of the modules, and the 85%, remaining 85% is made up by a written 5,000 word assessment. So the forums are really important because they really create this community of learning. You know, if you imagine all the students are scattered across the UK, across the globe, it's really important for them to be connected, and the forums do that. So, for example, you know, you can post on a particular topic that's sort of stimulated your interest that particular week. So these are all related to the course content, the weeks that they're studying. As they progress from week to week to week, they've got various topics to discuss, and then we have kind of provided some guided questions, and they can go in and complete their reflections. So it is a very reflective MA programme. I would like to emphasise that. It's a shared space for students to come together interprofessionally, internationally, to talk about child protection issues. So I'll just show you one thread kind of format to give you a flavour. So it's very easy to use. We work very closely with the university's learning and technology team. It's very reliable. Like any program, you're going to have the odd problem, but it's ironed out very, really quickly. So you can see a thread here, discussion between tutors and students. So I hope that gives you a nice flavour. I'm going to just give you, I'm just going to show you while I'm here the international module, which I was talking about earlier. So again, as you can see, it's a very uniform format that we have. That's Dr. Tracy Green. I was talking to you about who put this module together, and the core text, useful resources, the assessment, all the topics. So you can see what kind of topics are being discussed here. And if I click onto each of these weeks, it takes you into a bit more detail in terms of the actual activities, but we don't have time now. So I'll just give you a flavour of what the content is for this module. So this is a year 2 module that the students can choose. Again, a study week. So really, really interesting, packed with lots of resources. Okay, so I hope that gives you a bit of a flavour. So just going back to the presentation. So want to move along, there you go. So as I said, it's hosted on Moodle. It's very convenient and flexible, visually engaging and stimulating, a whole lot of resources, not just readings. So this pie chart gives you a bit of a flavour of where students have come from in terms of wanting to study the MA. So you can see the variety of countries that we have managed to recruit from and learn from. It's been an absolutely fascinating journey. We've had such interesting students over the years and such fantastic pieces of work that they do. So at the end of year 2, as I said, they completed dissertation for us, and some of the topics that some of the international and UK students complete are really amazing. So I've spoken about that. So these are some of the topics, a real tip of the iceberg of some of the topics that students study with us when they fit, in their year 2, and some have published from these pieces of work. And it's an amazing achievement at the end of 2 years. I would like to emphasise the tutorial support. So we are distance learning only in Maine. The team of course tutors really support the programme. We have one of the highest retention rates, I'm sure, in the university. We definitely have one of the highest completion rates. We really support our students through lots of different mediums, and they will never tell you that they're distance learning or isolated in any shape or form, even if they're far away in Australia. They get a lot of good support, and we take this really seriously. So we've awarded over 170 MAs, lots of distinctions and merits. So these are the distinction being the highest category in the UK system in terms of a degree programme. So really, really proud of that. And students, importantly, feel that this MA really helps them to grow. So it's a really important MA to invest in. So further information, I'm sure you'll have all these through the webinar browser. And I just want to end with a former student of ours telling you from her own mouth what the experience was like.
I think it was essentially because I qualified over 20 years ago. I felt that it was a really good opportunity to really revisit some of the learning that I'd undertaken in the past, but also to really learn about contemporary theories, contemporary research, and start applying it to my practice.
What have you taken back into practice from the Master's programme?
I think absolutely loads, and it's difficult to say what I haven't taken. I think the way I write, the way I analyse different pieces of information, the way I think about different cases, it is through a very different lens now, which is very exciting. So I think it would be very difficult to say what I don't actually take forwards.
And has the Masters made any kind of impact, any difference to your professional trajectory?
Totally. Essentially, my trajectory's changed. I've been a manager for the last 15 years, which I've loved, but actually I've decided to go back in really to look at practice, really in a kind of consultancy role, and that was triggered by the dissertation, which is a fantastic opportunity to really immerse yourself and luxuriate in the subject which you care about and you're passionate about. So that's what, yeah, it's totally changed.
Can I ask you just to pick a couple of words that would sum up the Masters for somebody that's watching?
I think revelatory, and energising, and probably quite career changing. Yeah.
So I'd like to thank Claire for that piece, and that is it from me, and I'll pass over to Emma now. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Emma and I'm the trainer with the Centre for Child Protection, and I've worked now with the Centre for nearly 5 years, and I train in several of our simulations, and I'm going to show you today looking out for Lahti, which is our simulation that tackles child sexual exploitation. So let me just go in and show you Lahti. So here we have Lahti, and Lahti is split across 7 different chapters. And so we follow the fictitious social media pages of 14-year-old Lahti as she's groomed by an 18-year-old male, Jack. And in the 8th scene, we get to meet Jack and we see what's going on for him up until the point where he first meets Lahti. But for the purposes of today's very quick demonstration, we're going to go into chapter 3. We've met Lahti. We've seen already that she's excited by an under-18s disco, and she's gone to this disco, and outside she has met Jack. So we log in as if we're logging into Lahti's computer. And we can see here that we've got 4 different types of social media here. We have iSocialite, which is a Facebook style page. We have Hashtagged, which is a Twitter feed. And in this Twitter feed here, in this chapter, Lahti is talking about how happy she is, what a great afternoon she's having. We also have Pictogram. And in Pictogram, we can see here that Jack has bought her a cake. There's pizza. And then at the bottom here, we see that Lahti is sharing a shop window photograph of cuddly toys. So that's an important part of her social media. We also have WeTube. So we go in here and we see the video diary entries from Lahti. This is a public video. And so let's hear from Lahti.
You remember that guy from Mojo's? Well, he's actually asked me out. I'm so excited. He even said that he'd pay for everything, which definitely means he likes me. I can never decide what to wear.
So we can see here as well, we know that if somebody is offering to pay for everything, then that, as a professional, we can see that's an indicator of grooming. So that's a concern to us. If we go back into Lahti's social media, her iSocialite page, which is like the Facebook style page, we can see there are comments there. We see the time and date of the post. We also have the mood bar, so we know if what she's posting is really how she's feeling underneath as well. At the moment, we can see this is tallying. She's saying that she's happy, and this is what her mood is showing. Also, crucially, we have the private messages where we go and interrogate the private messages from Jack in this case. We can see the time of the message, the dates. We can see there's a lot of communication between them well into the evening, and there's lots and lots of flattery from Jack here. We have that he's had a good afternoon. He wishes he could be with her all the time. He thinks she's really sweet. He talks about when they can meet up. He thinks she's amazing, how pretty she is. He loves her hair, lots and lots of flattery. And we know this is a big part of the grooming technique. This is early in the relationship, and he is trying to build that trust with Lahti. And this is very evident within this social media chat that is behind the scenes. So if we close this down, also looking a little bit more into Lahti's social media, as we scroll down the page, we can see here that a friend, Louise, is asking about going bowling. And if we click on the comments here, we can see that Lottie is not going to go out bowling with her friends. She's spending less time with her friends, more time with Jack. So it's the beginnings of isolation that we know is a factor of grooming. So you go through it and interrogate all of Lottie's social media. We have photographs down there. And we can see down here that Jack has bought her a cuddly toy. Now remember, from Pictogram, we had the pictures of the cuddly toys that she was liking. So by accepting people into your social media world, groomers can go and interrogate that social media and can use it as a form of manipulation and to assist their grooming. So this all factors all together. You look at all of the social media, and then you then go in to answer the questions at the bottom of the screen. So this question here is asking you to evaluate Lottie and Jack's private message conversation and ask about how you would define grooming and whether or not there's any grooming in these messages. So for the purposes of today, I'm just going to type one word in. There's lots of flattery, and then you submit your answer. And then you can see the Here's What We Think. Now, the Here's What We Think was updated in partnership with the NSPCC, the National Society of the Prevention of Cruelty to Children here in the UK. And we spent a year working with the NSPCC practitioners to update these questions. We're also very proud that Lottie formed part of a national campaign on Childline. Childline is an organisation that supports any child in the UK that's under 19 with any issues at all, through telephone counselling, through online messages and through web support. So Lottie ran as a 5-week campaign on healthy and unhealthy relationships, and in that time there were 2.25 million hits to the website, so lots of people got to see the Lottie pages. So that's a very, very brief snapshot of Lottie in the time that we have. And then I want to very briefly show you Mariam and Joe Behind Closed Doors. Now, this is a resource that has been developed in partnership with the UK government, with the Home Office. And we see here it follows the story of Mariam and also the story of Joe. So again, it's split into 5 different scenes. And in each scene, you get a news clip at the beginning. This is a real life news clip. This one here is from Sky News, and in the news clip it talks about hate crime on the streets of the UK, and we hear from a young woman who's had her hijab removed in the street. Then we go into the characters' social media and we see their different reactions to it. We see very briefly here with Mariam that she has been the victim of a hate crime, and there are lots of comments underneath, and we would assess all of the comments. And we would then go in and rag rate it as to whether or not we think it's a major concern, a minor concern, or no problem. For me, I think this is a major concern because it's a clear push factor that leads to Mariam being radicalised by radical Islam, by ISIS, into taking direct action in the UK. This is where we see the real beginnings, a real push factor that shapes her sense of identity and her sense of belonging in society. Then we can also say how this makes us feel. Now, this post makes me feel concerned. So I click on concerned, and then the concerned is tagged along the side there. So it's an opportunity to have a conversation about how we're feeling. And with at professionals, it's often concern, but with children it can be a different range of emotions, because with Lottie and with Mariam and Joe, you can use these resources not only with professionals but also directly with children and young people as well. Let's just have a very brief look at Joe. So Joe has also seen the same news clip, and we see his reactions to this, and we see that Joe is being groomed by Rose, and he's being groomed into the far right. And Rose is putting pressure on him to join the far right group, and we do this by seeing into his WhatsApp. In his WhatsApp group that he joins, we can see there are far right symbols there, and we get an idea about the kind of group that he's been groomed into. And we see as this story progresses, he becomes more and more involved in the far right narrative and the protests that go on there. So that's a very, very brief snapshot into Lottie and also into Mariam and Joe Behind Closed Doors. And then just to finish up, I just want to show you Family on the Move, the project that we undertook as part of an Erasmus project that follows a refugee family across Europe. While I'm setting that up, Tamas, can you now show the poll, the question, please? Okay, so this is, okay, oh great, the poll is there now. So if you could just take a minute to go through the poll. And then if I can show you family on the move. So it's a fictitious family of refugees that are traveling from Syria, making the journey across Europe towards Germany. This is the Ali family. And under each family member, there is a question about their experience along different parts of the journey. So here, for example, we see Khaled in Greece. And it's a question about interaction with refugees within Greece. And there's also opportunities to think about practice, theory and ethics and professional voices. And that goes through all of the different countries there on the journey. And this e-learning resource is available for free on the Child Protection Hub. It's there and it's caring for families on the move. Okay, that's all from me in the brief time that we have. Now we'd like to go over and see if there's any questions from you.
Yeah, the chat form is open, so if anybody have or interested in any question, feel free to ask. Meanwhile, let me ask, we have a couple of poll questions back until the first question arrived. So for example, we had a question around the International Center for Child Protection works with organizations and individuals to tackle child protection issues in innovative ways. Would you be interested in any of the professional training that we have just heard about a short presentation? In the meantime, we already received the first question. How was COVID affected your work at the center?
So that,
Jane, floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. Okay, so it's affected us in quite unexpected ways, actually. Firstly, I think because our students are professionals working really on the front line in child protection, either in health or social care or education, and Vanisha showed you how the students use the forums and how they get in contact with us, their tutors. I think seeing how our students have been under pressure in terms of the COVID virus has been really very difficult for us to see as tutors and supporters of our students. So they're finding it very difficult, and they're talking to us about that. As a university, the university has moved to us working from home, and we've all kind of made that transition in the last few weeks. But for us, because our materials are essentially online, we've been ahead of the curve, if you like, because our students already have the materials there for them. So I think it's affected us in different ways.
Thank you, Jane. I just launched another poll question around topic interest in simulation and in innovative learning ways. Feel free to vote as well. This is just to check the common interest as well. And as we still have a couple of minutes back, if you have any question, really feel free to write in the chat.
Can I just take an opportunity, Thomas, to reiterate what Jane was saying?
Of
in
course.
terms of COVID, yeah, I mean, our students are in the, a lot of them, are really experiencing personal challenges that they've obviously never experienced before, and we provided a lot of support, for them to kind of still manage the MA. It's been really, really difficult for them. And in terms of how COVID is actually affecting child protection practice, there's a lot of anxiety around what is happening when schools are closed and professionals aren't being able to see children who they're concerned about. I mean, that's really kind of amplifying the anxiety for professionals. And you know, this is something that we are really concerned about in the centre. I'm sure we will be coming back to that. I've written a piece recently, actually, which I can share with you, Thomas, that you can circulate about this, about how child protection practice, you know, it is a worrying time. It is a worrying time for child protection practice.
And as the last question, may let me ask that, do you have any training resource in the pipeline you are working right now, which can be an interest of the people?
I think that's one for me. So, yeah. Okay, thank you. So yes, at the moment working on a great new simulation on gangs, county line and knife crime. So it's looking at the different issues affecting children from age ranges from 9 up until their late teenage years. And it's examining them in their community and thinking about a real contextual safeguarding approach in order to protect the children from this knife crime, from this issue around county lines across the board. So it's taking all that research that we know about and building it into these interactive characters. And I'm really looking forward to going live with that one. And that's one thing that COVID-19 has affected, because we've had to delay the start to that training, but we're looking forward to launching that in the autumn.
Thank you very much. We are absolutely interested to learn more. And I think now that time is almost run out, let me launch the feedback question. And we really appreciate the presentation today. Thanks for your great work. For me, it was a great pleasure to get you know in more and learn more about what you offer in Kent. I hope it was relevant for most of our participants. If you have any kind of final saying, feel free to let us know. It was a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Are we done?